Good day, class. In this video, we are going to study the pulse diagnosis. From this session, we need to understand how to perform the pulse diagnosis, and also we need to identify the different manifestations of different pulse or different pulse characteristics. This is the last session of the diagnostic method. The pulse diagnosis is one of the most typical and special diagnostic methods in Chinese medicine and acupuncture. As you can see from the image on the right side, that's a picture of pulse taking. The practitioner uses 3 fingers to put on the close to the wrist of the patient, and the practitioner try to gather information from the feeling under the fingers. In a very typical condition, you can see from the movies or some videos in the past, as a practitioner feel a lady's pulse, and after a few minutes, the practitioner will tell the patient that congratulations, you are pregnant. So for this case, in this case, how does the practitioner know that the patient is pregnant? That's from the feelings of the pulse. After the training, you also can identify this kind of feeling. Although nowadays we have some medical examinations or some blood tests or even urine tests, the patient can know that they are pregnant, so we don't use this method that often now. But what's very common happens in our practice, sometimes I feel the pulse, and then I will ask the patient, are you close to your period? Either before or after, or even during that period. Sometimes the patient will be surprised, how do I know they are on period? So this because in women, in ladies, during the period, their pulse, the feeling from the pulse changes. So this is something we need to study. You need to identify from the fingers. So what exactly we are feeling, or what exactly the pulse diagnosis refers to? The pulse diagnosis is a part of the palpation diagnostic method, and it's the practitioner use their fingers to feel some specific area, especially where the artery, superficial artery, can be felt. So that's the pulse diagnosis. And firstly, what's the pulse or what's the feeling relates to? The first is the heart and blood vessels. These two are the major organs that contributing the pulse condition. The reason is the function of the heart. Now we need to think about the function in the basic theories. The function of the heart. The heart governs the blood. The heart governs the vessels. And what we are feeling here is the vessels, is the radial artery. So it's a piece of the vessel that's governed by the heart. So in order to have a normal pulse feeding, we need to have a normal heart function. The heart function, especially the heart yang and heart yin, we also need to have a normal vessels function, because the vessels are where the blood travels. So these two organs are very important to the pulse conditions. These two organs, the changes to these organs also can result in the changes in the pulse conditions or the pulse feelings. The second is the qi and blood are material foundation of the pulse condition. The reason is we are feeding the vessels, but what's in the vessels? What can affect the feelings of the vessels? That's the qi and the blood, the volume of the blood, the quality of the blood, the property of the blood can affect the feelings from the vessel. Blood move in the vessels, and how can the blood move? That's the promotion from the qi. So these are the theories that we study in the basic theory, the relationship between the qi and blood, the carrier, and one is the promotion, who push the qi and help the blood circulation. So these two are very important for the pulse conditions as well. And also until now, you will understand that when we talk about one single manifestation or one single symptoms, although it is related to one organs, or although it's dominant related to one organs, but now you should understand that all organs that they are actually related. So the pulse is related to the heart. It's closely related to the heart, but it also related to other organs, such as the lung. Why the pulse be related to the lung? That's because the heart function, the lungs function of dispersing qi, the lungs function of controlling qi. The qi in the heart also controlled by the lung. And then the pulse condition also related to the spleen and stomach function. Why the pulse condition also related to the spleen and stomach? Now you need to think about the qi and blood. Where does the qi and blood come from? The qi and blood come from the middle jaw, from the food we eat, and then the middle jaw, the spleen and stomach transform into qi and blood. That's something our body can use. So the pulse also related to the spleen and stomach. The pulse condition is also related to the liver function. How can they relate to each other? The liver stores blood. So the liver can control how much blood in the circulation system, how much blood stored in the liver. So that can control the volume, the volume of the blood in the vessels. That's how the liver can affect the pulse condition. The pulse also related to the kidney. The kidney is where the axons stores. The relationship between the axons, the qi, and the blood. That's the relationship that we have introduced in a basic theory. So these are how they related to each other. So if in a test, if I ask you to explain the pulse is related to 5 zang organs, you need to tell me why and how they related. So that's from the basic theories. As you can see now, we are going to integrate more and more basic theory to explain these physiological and pathological conditions of the clinical situation. So the pulse is related to all organs. It's related to the qi and blood, especially related to the heart and blood vessels. So now we have understand that the pulse may relate to different organs, especially the heart and the other organs, and then how to perform the pulse diagnosis. There are 3 diagnostic methods, 3 parts and 9 divisions, 3 arteries, and in truncal area. So there are 3. We're going to introduce all 3 of them But nowadays we focus on the last one, the twinkle area. The reason is because those we didn't use for long, and those is how the twinkle area developed from, where the twinkle area developed from. So where to feel the pulse? The 3-area 9-region or 9 divisions pulse taking. This method was introduced in 黄帝内经, the Yellow Emperor's Inner Classic. We have introduced that we can find 3 areas, one in the head, one on your hand, one in the legs. These 3 regions, we're going to find 3 superficial pulse, superficial artery. That's where we can feel the beating from the skin. We're going to find 3, and these 3, we're going to feel these 3 areas. So closer to here, you can feel the small artery is beating. So these 3, from the according to the height, the top one is the upper, middle, and lower, or they call it heaven, man, and earth. Each area, the upper area, according to where the location, the upper one calls the heaven, the middle one calls it the man, the lower one calls it the earth. That's because the heaven in Mandarin is similar to the sky. So the sky, the human being in the middle, the human being is standing on the ground, the earth. So that's why they identify these 3 into these 3 sections. So they choose 3 different arteries to identify the situation in the head area, in the upper body, in the hands, for the limbs, in the legs for the lower part of the body. So this is the pulse diagnostic method in 黄帝内经. And this diagnostic method just become too complicated. The reason is because 3 regions, upper, middle, and lower, and in each region we have 3 divisions. So which means we have 9 divisions. And each divisions, when we study later, you will see each divisions, we can feel different feelings from the superficial, from the medium, from deep force. So this kind of diagnostic methods become very complicated. And nowadays we don't use that often. The second diagnostic method is the 3-region pulse taking method. So this 3-region pulse diagnostic method was recorded in 伤寒论, the treatise of cold damage and resilience diseases. So this is the English translation of 伤寒论. We have introduced that the 4 classic from 黄帝内经 475 BC to 伤寒论, about 700 years later, 220 AD. So after all these hundreds of years of development, the pulse-taking diagnostic method has been simplified. In this book, it describes that we're going to take 3 regions only. We don't take all over the body. We take 1 容营 pulse. That's around. That's where the stomach 9, the acupoint sits. The 容营 meridian, the 容营 points from the 寸口 pulse on the wrist. That's something we're still using today. And 俯仰 pulse from the food. So in Shanhan it introduced these three diagnostic methods. These three diagnostic methods is also quite complicated and is sometimes it is not practical, especially if you have a lot of patients and each region it will take much longer time for you to diagnose. So this diagnostic method is also not very commonly used in practice. But in some cases, in some critical conditions, if the patient in severe conditions and you can't feel the pulse from 寸口, from this area called 寸口, so 寸口 diagnostic. If you can't feel here, you also can use 人影 pulse or 冲阳 pulse, 复阳 pulse. 人影 pulse, the Western medicine, they also use this if they want to check the heartbeat, such as for the first aid, like CPR. We also check the pulse. The Western medicine also check the pulse in 人影. So in some critical condition, you still can use these three pulse diagnostic methods. Nowadays, the most common use pulse taking method is the 寸口 pulse taking method. 寸口 pulse taking method or 气口 pulse taking method is to feel the radial artery only. So we feel the artery here. This diagnostic method has simplified from 黄帝内经, from 伤寒论. It is not something new. This diagnostic method was proposed in Nanjing, also the four classic, and it became more popular after Maijing. Nanjing it proposed that all qi and blood gathered in this area. That's why we can diagnose from here. And also this also explain the reason. From 黄帝内经, we need to identify 3 area, 9 divisions pulse. From 伤寒论, we need to identify 3 area, 3 regions. But now we only use one area, one 气口 area, one area here. How can you explain all the information in the body? This will link to the theories, because only if you can explain all clinical information from this area, then we can simplify it. Otherwise, you're going to feel 人影 pulse. You have to feel the pulse in the foot. The reason why you can use 气口 pulse taking to explain all over the body, the condition all over the body. That's because in Nanjing, it proposed that all qi and blood gathered in the lung meridian. So as I said before, the pulse we are feeling is the radial artery close to the wrist. So this area we're going to feel. So that's where the pulse comes from. But when we study the Chinese medicine theories, now you can forget about the radial artery. Don't think about the radial artery. You need to think about what we are feeling actually. So you should still remember this line. This is the lung meridian. So what we are feeling actually, we're feeling the area of here. So when I make it smaller, we feeling the area of here. That's the lung meridian. We are feeling the lung meridian. And 黄帝内经 Su it described that the stomach is the sea of the water and grain. That's where the food comes from. And the source of 6 food organs, that's the food. Receive the food, nourish the qi of 脏 organs, including the lung. The qi of the 5 zang and 6 food organs come from stomach and manifests in 寸口 area. And 寸口 area is also the yuan source point of the lung meridian, so it can reflect the function of the lung. So here is some of the underlying principles of 寸口 area. Firstly, it's the lung meridian, the yuan source point of the lung meridian that can identify the condition of the lung. And lung connects with all vessels. That's from the lung's function. What's the function of the lung? And qi and blood also related to the lung through the vessels and meridians. The lung meridian originates from the middle jaw. The lung meridian also, the qi and blood in the lung meridian also from middle jaw. So you can see all these reasons make the area, the lung meridian, closely related to 脏腑 organs, specifically in 寸口 area, can reflect the whole body condition. The last reason here, the 寸口 area located in its superficial is ideal for pulse taking. This is not the principle. This is the reason why we use the 寸口 area, because it is convenient, but this is not the underlying principle. The underlying principles you need to understand from the theories. What's the connection from the 寸口 area and the connection with the 脏腑 organs? So this explains how we can identify the different conditions from this area only. With the 寸口 area, the 寸口 area refers to radial styloid process area. So it's close to radial styloid process, close to here. And the name, this 寸口 location can be divided into 3 sections. 寸, 关, 尺. So these are the direct translation from Mandarin. You're also going to use this name. The reason is because everyone studying Chinese medicine globally will use this name, direct translation. So whenever you talk about the left hand 寸 area, it refers to this section. Or you talk about the right hand 关 area, that's this section. So that's the location of these different areas. In the later slides, we're going to show you how to find exactly where they are. But from here, you will see that the different locations, the different sections of this area can reflect different organs function or different organs condition. On the left hand, the 寸 area reflects the heart function. 关 location reflects the liver function. The 齿 area reflects the kidney function. On the right hand, the 寸 is linked to the lung, the 关 links to the spleen, and 齿 links to the kidney. So that's the connections from the pulse, the locations, and the organs. Also, from the other aspects, you will see that the 寸, no matter from the left or right hand, the 寸 location reflects the lung and heart. 关 is the spleen and liver. 齿 is the kidney. So there's another school that they says these 3 sections can reflect different jiao, which means 寸 location. The 寸 area reflects the upper jiao. 关 reflects the middle jiao. 齿 reflects the lower jiao on both sides. So upper jiao, middle jiao, and lower jiao. So these are 2 schools of the location. You can use these these two schools in the practice. Location. How to locate the 寸关尺? Firstly, locate the guan position with the middle finger, and then 寸 and 尺 position will fall automatically under your index finger and your ring finger. Finger placement. Which parts of our finger going to feel the pulse? There's something they call the finger eyes. Where's the finger eyes? That's this area, because this area is more sensitive. We're going to introduce the theories first, and then you can see a demonstration on how to perform the feeding. So you know where's the 寸口 area. You know 3 sections in the 寸口 area, and in these 3 sections, how do you perform the feeding? How do you perform the diagnostic method? From touching, pressing, and searching. Touching, also known as light or superficial pulse palpation, gently contact the skin. Pressing, known as a heavy or deep pulse palpation, exerts a strong pressure to reach the bones. Searching means gradually increase finger pressure and search the most palpable pulsation around the 3 region. So how to perform the method? You can imagine from our superficial skin to the bones, the radial bones, the gap between there. You can divide it into three sections. Superficial, where the finger, when you put the fingers in, on the skin, you put a medium force, you put the excessive force all the way to the bones. So that's how to perform. You're going to feel the feelings in each part. So you don't put your fingers and press hardly to the bottom, or you only feel the one in superficial. How you perform? You're going to perform from the superficial area. You put your fingers there on the skin and you press slightly. You feel the feeling, the pulse feeling there. You press medium force. You press excessive force to the bottom. So these 3 areas, you're going to feel the feelings from these different areas. Feelings with 3 fingers or with 1 fingers. With 1 finger, it only mostly happens in kids. We will show you the image in the later slides as well. Mostly we're going to feel with 3 fingers. The reason is these 3 fingers on both hands can reflect different organs problem. So here is a demonstration how to perform the pulse diagnosis. Firstly, we will have a cushion, a small cushion. We call it the pulse cushion. So that's in my right hand, the cushion. We're going to put the wrist at the 1/3 of the cushion. So as you can see from here, the wrist is about 1/3, 2/3 from here. And then firstly, you use your middle finger to find the guan area. You're going to locate the guan area, and then you will put your fingers down, the middle finger, the index finger, and the ring finger. Mostly it will be, you can relax your fingers, and sometimes you can adjust to make the gap bigger if the patient is much taller than you, Or if the patient is much shorter than you, you can make your finger closer. But if the patient have similar height to you, you will just relax your fingers on the you will just relax your fingers of each side to relax to the each side of the middle finger. How to locate the middle finger? That's the guide area. The guide area is the radial styloid process area. So you find the radial styloid process, and then you move a little bit in. You find the process first, and then you move a little bit towards the middle. You can feel the pulse. Then that's the guide area. That's where your middle finger place. And then once you place your middle finger, you can place the index finger and the ring finger. So that's how to perform the diagnostic. This image I also show you some mistakes. Firstly, the mistakes, the small finger should not raise. The second is the fingernails. Your fingernails should be short. So after taking pulse, you should not leave any marks on the patient's skin. So you will use the finger eyes. In the previous slides we have introduced where's the finger eyes. We're going to use the finger eyes to feel the pulse. We don't use the fingertip. So as you can see here, your small fingers should not raise. You also don't use the fingertip, such as the one shown in the image now. That's also a mistake.